Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Wild Wisdom Podcast. I am your superficial star sailor, Peter Stockbridge, and I'm talking to you today about why I don't like Elden Ring. This might be a triggering statement to some of you, but it is a very logical decision, and I think by the time this video is done, you may agree with some of the issues that I'm going to bring up. But before I do bring any of them up, I want to give you the briefest of histories of where I come from with regards to gaming. I'm 43 years old and I was with gaming right from the start. We're talking the Amiga 500, the Commodore 64s. If you want to get a good idea about that era, just go and watch another YouTube channel called Angry Video Game Nerd. I was a massive fan of games, and I could pick out a whole bunch of them of games that stand out to me. So things like Flashback on the Sega Mega Drive, the early XCOM games. I think one or two of them were on the early PlayStation, but on the PC as well. And then there was Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls games. I even played some online games like World of Warcraft. I got to about level 25. Lord of the Rings online, I think I got to about 30. There are some other games that stand out to me, masterpieces like BioShock. For me, there's only two games in my long history that I consider to be 10 out of 10s, and that's Morrowind and BioShock. And I'm also the proud completer of Monster Hunter World on the Xbox. I've managed to defeat every single monster on my own, solo, apart from two, which the final one, Fatalis, which is a group monster anyway, and Behemoth, which is big and purple, isn't he? Anyway, but you're listening to someone who has gone through all of this and has completed and clocked Monster Hunter World. So I am good at gaming. I'm sharp, and I've been with gaming for a very long time now. This is up to a good few years ago. I stopped playing games about a year and a half ago, and I started up again with Elden Ring. I thought I'd give that game a try, and this is my opinion on that. I will get into why I haven't been playing games for the past year and a half as we go through. The first point I want to mention is that I have issues with game mechanics in general. I'm not sure how best to approach this, but I'll try and keep it as simple as possible. For me, there's not enough innovation relating to game and character progression. It's become very stale. Like the character leveling system and interaction via the dialogue systems in games. You select responses and the character responds. I feel like everything's gotten very stale in that regard. I don't feel like there are enough people pushing the boundaries of it, of innovating a new interactive way of communicating with a non-player character. And one of the big reasons why I stopped playing games was because I was way too used to that sense of gameplay loop, and to be honest with you, I got bored of it. In general, in the games industry, I think that we need to kind of really shake up the way we play games, and I don't have a solution for you. This is the thing, I don't have any solutions, and I'm just highlighting what I feel is a problem for me, because I'm a veteran gamer and I crave original storytelling. The first major point I should really bring up about Souls games in general, and it's the elephant in the room, and I really should just address it briefly, and that's the difficulty. Having one difficulty setting is alienating certain groups of end users, and that's a fact. Whether you want to address it or not is completely up to you, but it is a fact. Now, that's not necessarily a wrong thing in my view, because game developers make the game the way they want to make it, and if they want to make it with one difficulty setting, that's completely up to them. I don't have a problem with it being one difficulty setting. I'll admit to you, when I played Dark Souls 3, I wanted there to be multiple difficulty settings because it was really starting to annoy me. But in my opinion, Elden Ring is quite a lot easier than any of the other Souls titles. But I do agree with the fact that it does alienate certain groups of end users. Now, I can relate to that because I have a terrible memory, and this is one of the points that I'm going to bring up in a bit. I consider my reflexes to be sharp, but they're not sharp as they once were. And, if I'm trying to parry, and I always miss it by a split second, and I can no longer get that sort of sharp sense, then that frustrates me. So in that regard, I do understand. There is another tiny aspect to that, which is the true reason why die-hard fans don't want it changed is because of pride and ego. I don't know. That's a very good point to bring up, because part of me feels like the reason why, the people that find it very easy, there's some, sense of power to that, and I don't necessarily feel like that's the case. Anyway, so that, I personally feel that with difficulty, as long as there's a way and as long as it can be done, I don't have a problem. But do bear in mind, though, that because there is only one difficulty setting, if you do have mental health problems, then this will only enhance those issues, potentially. It depends what they are, obviously, but I think you might get what I'm talking about there. It's probably not the best game to play if you're prone to fits of rage, should I say. But there's this sense of accomplishment to it, right? There's the fact that it is so difficult and it's so fucking hard, and when you've done it, it's like, yes! And I get that as well. I got that in Monster Hunter World plenty of times. But I think you have to balance that with the fun factor. And the issue with that is everyone has a different idea of having fun in games, right? I mean, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I find it fun to cheat offline in single games. I never cheat online. I should just get that out of the way. And I don't really play online anyway with games, but if I am offline and single player, and a part of the fun factor with me is cheating, and I usually only sort of go through a game again if I like it, and if I do like it, I might make certain things easier because I want to have a laugh. You know what I mean? But I usually will always play games normally how they're supposed to be for the first time through. So let's move on to the storytelling now. This, for me, is a very big point with Elden Ring, and admittedly all the Souls titles as well. I should say briefly, I've only played Dark Souls 3, but I have seen video footage of all the games beginning to end, all the other ones. I feel like the storytelling in all of the Souls games are really bad, actually. I'm a creative artist and I've dabbled in a lot of things, and one of those things is literature, and I know quite a bit about how to structure a good storyline, and from my point of view, my feelings and my opinion is that there's not enough exposition, it's too ambiguous, there's no memorable characters and no NPC animations, there's no immersion to interacting with characters. It's very much how Eastern countries develop RPG games, Asian countries, and which is, again, it's fine, it's a style. With these types of games, you don't usually get NPC animations, but it destroys the immersion, and that leads on to a point that I will bring towards the end. But there's, for me, there wasn't enough explanation. The story was too ambiguous, and for me there were no memorable characters in any of the Souls titles. I just felt like not enough was explained to me. I don't know whether it's because I'm too old, or I didn't get the point, or I didn't grasp what was going on. I don't know, I couldn't tell you really. But I didn't have any of that feeling of being hooked into the story. I didn't know where I was going. And there was no journal, there was no quest log, and that really pissed me off. I would have at least wanted a journal, so I could be reminded of what certain NPCs said to me. And with me, there's a whole issue with gameplay loops in general anyway. I do feel like there's a sense of repetition to it, and it's a large part of why I don't play computer games anymore. It's just because I don't feel like I get anything out of it. I'm not enjoying it, and yes, I want to enjoy a good game, but you see, I've been spoiled with games like Bioshock and Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, and I want a beautiful story. I want a nice story. I want a story with some good moral messages for people to learn, and not like to do with social issues or current affairs or anything like that. I'm talking about the old moral messages, like be careful what you wish for, and all those kind of things. I think it's time that we look at game mechanics in itself. I think that there's something missing, or there's something that we need to change. Is a little bit disappointing as well. There's so many assets carried over to this title, and I wanted a start fresh feel to it, but it wasn't like that. And I mean, I'm not saying completely replace all the animations, but have new ones, but make them familiar. It felt really lazy in that regard, to me anyway. And there's so much unnecessary punishments with it as well. There's this sense of sadism to it, the whole mechanic itself of having to die again and again and again, and suffer because you made a stupid mistake. And I do get it on one level, because you are bettering yourself, but are you having fun? Is this what you've come down to do, to play a game for, is to learn how to sharpen your abilities, or is it because you want to have fun? I've been facing that very question for the past couple of years, and after that amount of time, I just don't have an answer. I do feel it's a very marginally unfair game. The music is nice in places, it's very beautiful in others. The opening area music, though, was so bad, and it put me off listening to the rest of the music, and I kind of turned it off for a while because it was getting really annoying, and I was spending a very long time in the opening area. So, but there were a couple of places towards the end where it was really good, and one of the final bosses just blew me away. Overall, I felt the music was really lazy, and there was no sense of identity to the music, like you get with Elder Scrolls games, for instance. So, in conclusion, then, it is too much of an asset flip for me. It needed to be a bit more original than what it was. Now, the visuals, the layout, the level design was top notch. It was absolutely brilliantly designed. Some of the visuals were god awful, and please, I don't know why no one has mentioned this in any of the videos that I've come across and watched and listened to, whatever. No one has mentioned, as far as I'm aware, the state of the foliage in the game. It is absolutely god awful. It makes my eyes bleed. I couldn't do anything about it, and it was really doing my head in, because there's no need for them to be that bad. They were like billboard cards, and it looked so obvious. It's time to upgrade your engine, and I can't believe you didn't do that before this title, to be quite honest with you. I'm actually blown away, and it's a bit cheap of you, Miyazaki. Anyway, moving on. There's not enough immersion with the characters. When I go up to a character, I want to experience with them. I want them to be, a character. I want them to kind of come alive, and they didn't, and that kind of felt alienating to me. I felt like I was taking a step back and just you know. And a big part of it for me is subtitles, because whenever I have subtitles on, I always end up just reading rather than just sitting there and listening without any text. I chose to have subtitles on with this game, and I do kind of regret it. Now, considering George Martin's views on Lord of the Rings, there seems to be a heck of a lot of Tolkien-esque references in this game. Like, certain visual aesthetics or story elements. I kept being reminded of it. Now, it's because of, the tropes associated with fantasy. I'm sick and tired of seeing fucking dragons, for a start. I'm sick of it. Why does it have to be dragons? Can it not be some variant? Tolkien talks about in the first stage having a type of dragon which was more worm-like and was, he described it, and it was very terrifying. And I would like to see something like that. But the monster designs in these games are always a bit weird for me. There doesn't seem to be any sense of decent originality in any of the designs for me. To me it felt like someone had just sort of thrown something together and they've gone, yeah, cool, that'll do, and it was just like, really, it was like a baby's face on a octopus's body or something. It was like, what the fuck, that's so odd. It's easier than other Souls games, but it is way too similar to them. So again, I'm mentioning that previous fact, but it's it is very much easier than other Souls games. So it is a very good entry point if you are interested in playing these games. It will get you into the hardness of it very, very quickly, and hopefully you can brush up your skills if you do decide to play the other games. So overall, brilliant elements scattered amongst a sea of tropey familiarity. But please understand, my opinion is heavily influenced by the state of gaming today, which, in my opinion, is a total lack of innovation and originality going on. Gaming is going to have to drastically change in order for me to return to it, to be quite honest with you. I like creating, so maybe I'll start learning how to make them instead. I hope you enjoyed this fairly drawn-out review. I wanted to kind of get a certain point across. I hope I've done that, and I hope you understand. And I'm totally open to a discussion in the comment section below. Please be respectful. Don't jump down my throat because I don't like it. So, that's my review for Elden Ring. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. If you did, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you for the next podcast. You're going to like them. Oh, yes, you're going to like them. Take care, everyone. See you later.